Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the National Anti-Racism Fund Grantee Orientation session. It's wonderful to have you with us today. We are at 2:31, so thank you for joining us promptly and on time. We do have quite a few registrants for today's session, which is absolutely wonderful. So we will give it another couple of minutes to see if others will join us. But then we will be starting at about 2:33 promptly to make sure that we cover all the important material that we want to share with you and allow for some questions and answers at the end. Welcome, everyone. As you're coming in, just so you know, we are giving it another minute to allow for all the registrants to come and join us. We were thrilled to see that there's a lot of interest and many people signed up. So we just want to make sure that people can join before we start, though we will be starting shortly, because we also want to be respectful of everybody's time. So we are now at 2:33. We have 95 people who have already joined us. We are not quite at the full number of people who registered, but we are recording this and people will be able to listen from the start. So to be respectful of everybody's time and to get us going, I will start and officially welcome you all to this session. It is wonderful to see so many of you and to have you join us today. My name is Maya Saletto, and I'm Director of Community Investment at the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. We are delighted to welcome you as our newly approved grantees of the 2025-2026 National Anti-Racism Fund Events and Youth Initiatives Program. We are really thrilled to welcome you both to Canadian Race Relations Foundation, especially those of you who are entering into this relationship with our foundation for the first time, and also to welcome you to the session today. And we want to start by a big, big congratulations, everyone. As always, we had a very competitive round of decision making. We received a total of 573 applications, and we were able to fund 130 events and youth initiatives projects across the country for a total of $1.2 million. So you are in that group, and once again, congratulations. Before we start with the content of our session, I just want to acknowledge my community investment colleagues who are all involved in making this program happen. So I will start with our Associate Director, Ibrahima Gay, and we'll try to wave at you so you know who we are. We have our partnerships managers with us, Sharon Poon, Dalal Abdul Razak, and then our third partnership manager is Leandro Nevaj, who was not able to join us today, but who is, as a member of our partnership managers team, very important, and they all play a key role in assessing and reviewing applications, as well as coordinating our National Anti-Racism Fund. So they play a very, very important role in the entire process, and we are thrilled to introduce them to you. I also want to acknowledge Harman Mugusu, the Community Investment Team Administrative Assistant. Harman, you definitely want to remember, he will be your main point of contact for completing and finalizing your grant agreements. So your first and very important requirement. So please make sure that you have Harman's name handy and then the contact information that will be shared later in the presentation. And then last but not least, I want to introduce our regional coordinators. Ayan Ismail, regional coordinator for BC, Yukon, and Northwest Territories. Kevin Harrison, our regional coordinator for Atlantic region. Rodney Small, regional coordinator supporting Atlantic region and Ontario. Sarin Aman, regional coordinator for Ontario. Simi Doel, regional coordinator for Prairies and Nunavut. And Rami Barhoush, program manager for Quebec. Our regional coordinators and our program manager for Quebec play an essential role in supporting our grantees with implementation, monitoring, and reporting. So they will be your contact of point of contact and person to be in touch with as you are implementing and delivering your initiatives. So they are very important for your work from this point on. And we will spend a little bit of time later in our presentation to introduce them to you a little bit more deeper and to tell you about their work so you understand their role and how they will be supporting you. So the last thing I want to just pause for before we jump into the content is I want to acknowledge the land. And the land I'm joining you from today is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat peoples. These lands continue to be home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. As for me, I'm a settler, originally from Croatia. I have been privileged to live on these lands for almost 30 years now, initially in Toronto, and over the last 6 years in Kawartha, today known as Kawartha Lakes region in Ontario. The land that I live and work on is subject to Treaty 20 and also known as 1818 Rice Lake Purchase, and is also subject to William Treaties of 1923. So this pause to acknowledge the lands is not only about naming the lands and treaties that we are subject to, it is also about recognizing the rich cultures and histories that have shaped these territories for millennia, the sovereignty and treaty rights of Indigenous peoples, and the importance of our shared responsibility in advancing justice and reconciliation. I also want to recognize and thank the Indigenous elders, leaders, and knowledge keepers who may be with us on this call today and who continue to guide and inform the work of the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. We are deeply grateful to live, learn, and work alongside them on these lands. Miigwech. So now I will turn the presentation over to our partnership manager, Dalal, who will go through the agenda and the first half of the presentation with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. So today's main objectives are to walk everyone through the key information that you will need to complete your grant contract. And we'll also provide an overview of the reporting, monitoring, and acknowledgement requirements for the grant. We'll also be introducing the roles of our amazing team of regional coordinators and program manager from Quebec in a bit more detail. And before we get started, just wanted to add a couple of quick notes. Firstly, this session is being is being delivered in English, and a French session was held yesterday, October 16th. We are recording today's session, and a copy of this presentation will be emailed to you after the presentation. And finally, if you do have any questions as we go along, please use the Q&A button, which is at the bottom of your screen. I encourage you to submit your questions as they come up, and we'll do our best to cover as many as we can during our Q&A period at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. So our agenda today will be as follows. First, we'll have a look at the information we'll be asking each grantee to provide to set up and finalize your grant contracts. And our goal here is to ensure that the processing of your grant contracts and payments is efficient so that you can begin your project activities without any delay. And then following that, my colleague Ayan Ismail will introduce the regional staff and share some helpful information on how we're asking our grantees to track, monitor, and report on project activities. Then we'll wrap up with a short video that showcases one of our previous EYI grantees, and then conclude with some time for questions. Next slide, please. So to prepare your grant contract, we'll need everyone to fill out what we call a grantee information form. And this form was included as an attachment in your congratulatory email. If you didn't receive it for any reason, no worries. Just reach out to us, let us know, and we'll send you a copy right away. But as an overview, we use the details that you provide us in this form to populate your official grant contract. If you do have that information form handy, I recommend keeping it open on your screen for reference as I walk you through each section. That way you might be able to follow along more easily, but no worries if you don't have it, we'll show snapshots of each section. So we'll show images of the grantee information form, which are shown with a blue heading, as you can see here. And then we'll show what the corresponding contract template looks like, which will be highlighted in yellow. And then by the end of this section in this presentation, the hope is that you'll clearly understand how each part of the information form connects to your contract, and that you'll feel confident filling it out so we can prepare your contract without any delays. So let's start with section 1 of the grantee information form. This section basically asks for your organization's basic details and contact information. It's pretty straightforward, but there are a few important points we just wanted you to keep in mind. Firstly, this is pretty important. The organization name should be exactly the same as the one you listed in your grant application. If this applies to you, please include your charitable registration number or nonprofit number. And again, accuracy here really matters. What you enter in this form is what we'll use in your grant contract. Next slide, please, Harman. Thank you. So for this grant, we also ask you to identify a primary contact and a signing authority and designated person for dispute resolutions. So the primary contact is the person we will reach out to for day-to-day communication and reporting. And the signing authority is the person, excuse me, who's legally authorized to sign agreements on behalf of your organization and to address disputes that may arise. Having said that, the primary contact can also be the signing authority if that makes sense for your organization. And I'll explain a bit more about the signing authority's role shortly. Next slide, please, Harman. So yeah, this slide here just shows how the form corresponds to the grant contract in terms of the organization and contact information. One thing I forgot to mention actually in the previous slide is to please ensure all the contact information of like the address, email, name of primary contact is current and accurate so that we can reach you effectively. And this is very important. Please also note that the address of the organization cannot be a PO box. Next slide, please, Harman. So in the project description section, we ask for a brief description, 1 to 2 paragraphs of your project, where you'll include details such as your objectives, your activities, expected outcomes, perhaps the titles and themes of any anticipated workshops or presentation, if that's applicable, and things like the expected number of participants. We provide more instruction in the form as well. But most importantly here is please ensure that this description aligns with what you had outlined in your application. So this section will be informing what we call Schedule A of the grant contract, which is a snapshot of that is reflected on the lower right of the screen. Next slide, please. So next in the project schedule section, we'll ask you to include the project timeline in accordance with key project milestones. And this is where you'll include specific dates or months for your project activities, your event or youth initiative launch and end dates. This is where we'll ask you to check again that this timeline is feasible. Because again, this will be what's included in Schedule A, in the section titled Schedule A in your contract. Next slide, please. Then we'll ask you to fill in the budget chart according to the proposed expenses of your project. Very important here, the budget must equal the total amount that was awarded by CRRF. So please refer to the congratulatory email to confirm that awarded amount. Again, it's super important to check the budget for accuracy and that the totals add up correctly. And this section will inform what is titled, again, Schedule A of your grant contract. As seen on the right. Next slide, please. In this section, you will be confirming public acknowledgement of CRF funds by using the provided text and logos. And here we'll ask you to select yes or no to the acknowledgement requirements, as well as a request for links to your organization's social media. Next, please. This section asks for the name, title, and email of, as I had mentioned earlier, the authorized representative of the organization who will be responsible for also resolving any disputes related to the agreement. If this individual is the same as the primary contact in section 1, you only need to check off the yes box. If the answer is no, please provide the correct information related to this individual. And to note, this would typically be an individual who's in a senior position in your organization, so a board chair or an executive director, etc. And this section will inform sections 14.2 and 14.3 of your contract. Next, please. Finally, please sign the section 4 with the authorized representative's name, title, signature and date. Ensure the signature is from the correct individual with signing authority. And this individual who signs the section of the information form must also be the same individual who signs the final grant contract. Next, please. So I'll just give you an overview of the steps to submitting this form and what comes after. Once you've completed the grantee information form, before submitting it, please take a moment to review it carefully, make sure every section is complete, all your details are accurate. This includes checking your contact information, details, budget amounts, yeah, basically a double check now will prevent any delays later on. Think of it as your final quality check before sending everything in. Then you'll need to prepare your invoice for the first installment. So this should total 80% of your approved grant amount. In the invoice, please make sure your organization's physical mailing address is listed on the invoice. We, again, generally can't accept invoices with PO boxes. And very important, please ensure your organization's logo is on the invoice as well. These details are all required before our finance team can process your payment. Next, we'll ask you to attach the completed grantee information form and invoice in a single email. In that same email, please confirm in writing your organization's incorporation jurisdiction. So if your organization is federally registered, just write Canada. If you're provincially registered, please write the name of your province. And again, make sure this information matches exactly what's on your legal registration documents. Once everything's ready, then you can send the email with your completed form, invoice, and confirmation of incorporation registration to Harman at this email address provided here. Again, we'll be sharing this presentation afterwards. And in the subject line, please include your applicant ID and your organization name. And please note the deadline, which is approaching. We're accepting this information until October 21st at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And then once we've received all this information, we'll put together the contract with the completed sections for your organization to review, to provide your signature on it and send back to us. And then once all parties have signed the agreement, we will send the finalized contract back to you. And then after that point, we'll introduce you to your regional coordinator or program manager by email. And we expect that you would receive a check for your first payment within approximately 2 weeks of receiving the final contract and invoice. And that's it. So now I'm going to turn it over to Ayan, who's going to explain a bit more about our reporting and engagement requirements, and she'll also share an overview of the regional supports you'll have access to. Over to you, Ayan.
Thank you, Dalal. In this section of the grant monitoring and grantee engagement, I'll walk you through the key processes to help you manage your grant effectively. We'll cover grantee expectations, so what's required throughout the grant period, reporting and monitoring, how to manage your grant, track progress and report outcomes, and resources and contacts, so where to find support and who to reach out to with questions. By the end of this section, you should have a clear understanding of what's expected and the supports available to help you successfully implement your project. Next slide. In terms of regional support, as I mentioned earlier, each grantee will be assigned a regional coordinator or program manager who will provide support with the monitoring and reporting requirements for your grant. My name is Ayan Ismail, and I'll be your regional coordinator and main point of contact if you're based in BC, Yukon, or the Northwest Territories. In addition to myself, we also have Kevin Harrison and Rodney Small, who are the regional coordinators in Atlantic Canada. Next slide. We also have Rami Barhouch, who is our program manager in Quebec and the key contact for grantees in Quebec. Serene Amin, who is our regional coordinator for Ontario and the key contact for grantees in Ontario. And Simi Diol, who is our regional coordinator for Prairies and Nunavut and the key contact for grantees in the Prairies and Nunavut. Together as a team, we're here to support you through your project cycle and to ensure you feel well guided with reporting requirements and project implementation. Next slide, please. So in terms of amending grant agreements, any changes to Schedule A of the grant agreement or the term of the agreement requires a NAF agreement amendment. And this includes updates to the following: project description, like any changes to project description, activities, or deliverables, any changes to budget categories, timeline, an extension beyond the contract completion date, and legal organization name, like any change in legal organization name or change of financial trustee, if this is applicable to you. If an organization requests an amendment, a signing authority from the organization must submit an email rationale with an explanation or justification for the change. Then the coordinator or program manager responsible for project oversight will then review and submit for approval. And a CRRF signed copy of the charitable grant amendment will then be sent back to you via email. Next slide. As outlined in your charitable grant agreement, public recognition of the CRRF is required. So Section 10.1 says that the grantee shall publicly acknowledge the grant received from the grantor in all communication materials and promotional activities related to the charitable project, such as advertising, promotional and program materials, public announcements, speeches, website, and social media. So please be sure to tag CRRF in these points, in these posts, sorry. We also ask that you use the proper CRRF logo in all materials, and these resources are available for you to download. Next slide. Continuing with recognition of CRRF, in terms of social media and event promotion, Section 10.3 of your contract says that the grantee shall provide the grantor with the address of all social media accounts. This includes X, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, or others, and a timeline in which the grantee publishes information related to the charitable project, if applicable. CRRF must be tagged in all promotional materials, both before and after the project. And in terms of sharing event details, the grantee must notify the regional coordinators and program manager and share event details. So things like registration links, event title, location of the event, and venue. And this information is needed 4 to 6 weeks in advance before your event or initiative takes place. Please also indicate whether the event is connected to a commemorative day or month. Next slide. With regards to final report, a final report must be completed and submitted within 60 days of the completion of the project. And some of these key requirements include the report must be complete and accurate activities and deliverables, financial proof that 100% of grant has been expended upon the charitable project in accordance with the terms of the agreement, and an invoice for final 20% of the installment funds for final reporting is included, including how you will be spending the final 20%. If the grantee does not submit the final report by the deadline, which is 60 days after the contract completion date, the regional coordinator or program manager will send 2 reminder emails and make 1 follow-up call before escalating the matter. The final payment will be processed upon review of the final report by the regional coordinators and program manager. Please allow 3 to 4 weeks to receive your final check via mail. And next slide, please. So submitting your final report, to do this, you'll need to log into your SurveyMonkey Apply account. This is the same account you used to submit your application. Locate your EYI application ID in the dashboard and you click Start to begin completing your final report. Next slide. You will be redirected to this page where you will see your tasks. On it, click on Events and Youth Initiatives Reporting to begin. And very important to note that once you've completed your report, please be sure to click on Submit, which is the green button, as you can see on the screen, circled in red. Otherwise, we will not receive your report. So sometimes folks will complete their reports and then, but if you don't click that submit button, we don't receive it on our end. Next slide. You'll see here that after that submit button is pressed, you'll be brought to step 2, where you will see an application submitted confirmation message. Finally, step 3 is the confirmation you should see on your screen when the report has been submitted successfully. As you can see, the 3 steps on the screen. Next slide. In terms of non-compliance and performance issues, if grantees do not respond to requests from regional coordinators and program manager after, as I mentioned, 2 emails and 1 follow-up call, phone call, the matter will be escalated to the associate director for further follow-up. And where there are concerns about the reporting or other performance issues, the regional coordinators and program manager and the appropriate director will meet with the grantee to review the concerns and determine a resolution. Next slide. In exceptional cases, grant agreements may be terminated by CRRF or the grantee as per the grant agreement terms. Grantees will receive a letter from the associate director or director of community investment confirming the date of termination, the rationale for termination, release from the grant agreement, and a request to return any unspent funds. If a grantee is requesting a termination of their grant agreement, they must provide a letter detailing the rationale for termination, the cancellation date, information on any unspent funds, and any outstanding returns, any outstanding reports that are to be returned or provided to CRRF. Next slide, please. Before we jump into the Q&A, which will be led by Sharon, would love to share a short video with you. It features one of our past NAF Events and Youth Initiatives grantees, and it's a great example of the kind of inspiring work that NAF grantees are doing across the country to fight racism. We're so proud of everything our grantees are doing, and who knows, maybe next time it'll be a project we are highlighting. Over to you, Hamad.
Our work at Kabanka with Pinoy's on Parliament, our conference, has impacted over 2,000 delegates. When we talk about it in a way that's bigger, how have we impacted the community in a larger sense? It is much bigger than 2,000 because at our conference and in our other programs, all of our dialogue is very intergenerational. So yes, the issues that we tackle, they are particular to youth, but the people we invite come from all generations, right? We want to have our youth learn from our elders, but at the same time, we have our elders learning from our youth. I think that impact is very widely felt across the country, and I think it even reaches back home in the Philippines, where they're able to see us taking up space, going to Parliament for the 8th time in a row and more. And I think that impact is truly something that you can't necessarily quantify. I think it's the most invaluable thing.
Thanks, Diane and Harmon. We're now going to move on to the Q&A portion of the presentation and address any questions that may have come up during this time. Again, please submit your questions in the chat box or the Q&A box below, and we'll get to as many as we can. But I will start us off. Our first question is, an applicant has already submitted their grantee information form, but they want to make some changes and they want to know if that's possible.
Yes, absolutely. You can make any adjustments and email them to Harmon.
Yeah, just a reminder to send any changes before the deadline. And next question is, there were a couple questions about indicating more information in the grantee information form. So for example, how can they indicate a secondary or alternate contact in addition to the primary contact? And if there's a specific email contact for financial communication. So just more information than the grantee information form asks for, if there is a place for them to put additional information.
Thanks for that question. I realize that actually we haven't included a section in the form to provide additional contact details. If it is the case that you have a secondary contact, please include it in the email body, in which when you're sharing the information form, please include it in the email that's addressed to Harmon, if that makes sense.
Thanks. There's also a couple of questions about signature, that there's no place to sign on the grantee information form, and whether or not that was a mistake or where they can find that.
So section 4, where we ask you to provide the authorized signatory's name, is technically where the signature should be.
Yep, and just to add, your final signature will be in the contract, not the information form. There's a question about the dispute resolution section, about what kind of disputes this person might address. Could you speak to that?
Actually, I'm wondering, Ibrahima or Maya, would you be able to speak to that question?
Sorry, it's taking me a little bit to come online. I'm not entirely sure I understood the context. This question, I think, came up during the presentation. So I'm not sure when it came through and what was the context.
So maybe I could speak a bit to this. There's a section in the contract that refers to dispute resolution, and it asks for a contact in case of dispute resolution. So in the best case scenario, disputes wouldn't happen. And I think Ibrahima can speak. Ibrahima has his hand up.
Yes. Hi, folks. Sorry, I can't. My video is not working. So for this, it is in a kind of in any contract. We don't foresee any. We haven't, since we've been launching this funds, we've never had an issue where we need a dispute resolution. But that's part of also, having a partnership, having a collaboration between two organizations, because for the next few years or maybe more, we'll be partnering and resolving issues and making sure the funds are used appropriately, and the project deliverable are the project expectation are met, and therefore anything can happen between when two people are collaborating, and that's why there is a clause. If there is any issue that we can't resolve as director or as manager or as coordinator, we have to escalate it, and the leadership team of the organization will meet to resolve those issues. But we can't give an example because thank God we haven't had any issues that are major that need a director or a VP or a CEO involvement.
Thanks, Ibrahima. I believe this question was answered during Ayan's portion, but if there are some changes to the project details from the time of application, could that be discussed with us?
Yes, so as Ayan mentioned, we're certainly open to what we call amendments to your grant agreement. So if there are any adjustments that you'd like to make to your activities or the description itself, we'll likely ask you to submit a grant amendment, and that will require an email rationale and a justification, and then approval from your authorized signatory once we've approved it on our end. But yeah, if in doubt, I recommend reaching out to your assigned regional coordinator just to make sure to assess whether an amendment will be required or not.
I see a couple of questions about the presentation, so just a reminder that this will be sent to everyone afterwards. Another question is, when will the contact be made between regional coordinator and program manager with the awardee? So when would they be introduced?
So Sharon, correct me if I'm wrong, would that be in early December?
Yes, it would be after the contract has been signed by both CRF and the awardee. So in that final email that Harmon sends, he will be introducing the coordinator or program manager to you. Next question is, how many reports are required across the project duration?
So for the Events and Youth Initiatives grant, we just ask for a final report. One report.
Yeah, and that would be 60 days after your event is finished. Some questions are about checks and funding. So because of the Canada Post strike, if there is another way of receiving funding or their check, could you speak to that?
Sorry, can we ask Harmon, if you can explain with the process, please, for when it comes to checks?
Yeah, thank you, Ibrahima. So yeah, we understand that there is an issue with the Canada Post, and probably if you have an alternative address, or you can say care of a specific person, or for those regions that are to the north that probably Canada Post is not able to deliver checks, then we can use care of address. So this will enable the finance department to be able to courier the check to your location, precisely. And if you do not have any other way to receive the checks, then it will be best to get in touch with your regional coordinator and see how best then we can deliver the check to you.
Thanks, Harmon.
Thank you.
Who should the invoice be made out to? Is there a specific name or department?
Please make the invoice out to the Canadian Race Relations Foundation.
There's a couple of questions about applicant ID. There's one person asking if it's okay if the email subject they use does not include their applicant ID because they already sent it. I believe this is fine as long as Harmon has confirmed that he's received your email. Yep. And then where to find the applicant ID? The applicant ID is attached to your application form when you log into SurveyMonkey. So once you log in, you'll be able to find your ID number. And about PO boxes, are they able to use another physical address if their organization address is the PO box?
Yes, yes, you can. As Harmon mentioned, as long as you add the care of.
So one specific question was that an awardee submitted their grantee information form, but because their budget section didn't change from their application, the amount didn't change as well. They didn't include a budget. They just confirmed that it was the same as the application. They want to confirm if they should send the form again, including the budget, or if it's fine to leave as is.
Thanks for asking that. Yes, please do send us the budget information in the form. It's just helpful for us to know exactly what needs to go in the contract. It's a confirmation for us, so thank you.
When reporting to CRA on these grant funds, are these considered federal government funds?
We are an agency of the federal government. Therefore, these are federal funding by we are a current corporation by the Canadian through the Canadian Restoration Foundation. But if while you're supporting, I advise you to reach out directly to CRA to confirm that information.
Thanks. If we receive less funding than we applied for, can we adjust our deliverables and outcomes to reflect the funding amount?
Yes, you can. However, I believe you'll need to check with us to see if an amendment would be required. Do I have that right?
Yeah, just be in communication with us about any changes. And then there are a couple budget questions. If it's acceptable to make small adjustments to any budgets, though some costs have changed slightly. I believe if the grant amount in the end stays the same, so if you're able to adjust the budget, so the items are different perhaps, but the total cost is the same. So for example, if you're awarded $8,000, if it's the final number is the same, just make sure it makes sense in the itemized budget portion of the grantee information form.
Yeah, that sounds right. And I'd also add to Sharon's answer, perhaps that like if you're considering adding new items, that's where you need to check that with us. So the description of the expenses should largely remain the same. The costs may need to be adjusted according to what was awarded to you.
How do we demonstrate that the CR funding was spent on the grant? Do we provide receipts or payroll stubs? What's the best way to show? I could speak to this. So in the final report, there's going to be a spreadsheet provided where you indicate the amount CRF funded and the amount that you spent. So there'll be two columns, and you'll just put in there what you spent. So no receipts or payroll stubs needed, just fill in that form during the final report stage. Can we receive a final copy, or can we receive a copy of the final report questions before opening the form in the portal? Yes, you can. A PDF will be provided to the regional coordinators and program manager, and they can send it to any awardees that would like a copy. But if you do open the form in the portal, it's totally okay. You don't need to submit right away. The questions can still be read online in the browser. And just to clarify, if they submit their invoice for 80% of the total approved grants for the first installment by the 21st, at what point is the invoice for 20% expected?
So the remaining 20%, I believe, will be dispersed after receiving your final report.
And this specific question is for a specific event, I guess. Could the project, which is focused in Toronto, be expanded to reach other provinces if our capacity has expanded since July? And they're also able to do it with the budget that they were awarded.
So thank you for asking that. I would say a change like that is a significant one because there's been there's a proposed change in scope from Toronto to national, and this is a good example of where you would need to run it by the regional coordinator.
There's a couple questions about when they can start spending. So should the organization, can they spend, or if the start date when organizations can begin spending, or they should wait until after they receive a signed contract? Ibrahim?
Ibrahima?
Yeah, sure. We don't normally do retroactive funding, but given that this is an event and some of you folks did not receive the full funded, so we're totally okay so that you can start spending your money. But make sure that when you're reporting on your budget and you report on how did you use the money that was allocated to you. So, but we're totally okay. We're flexible on that. Yeah.
Great, thanks. I guess some more questions around changes to timelines, changes to start dates. So if there is any changes in terms of start date, end date, that will differ from the application form, whether or not those can be changed. Or just information in general that is different from what was put in their application form, if they can change it slightly on the grantee information form.
I believe that has to be taken context by context. Like, I'm not sure what a small change is in this situation. So again, any changes, please just run it by the regional coordinator and or program manager of Quebec, and they'll be able to confirm it.
Given that the grant agreement is due on Tuesday, are we expected to go through the grant amendment process if needed before then? Maybe I can answer, then you can jump in, Jalal, if needed. You wouldn't need a grant amendment now, I don't believe. We would try to make try to make your event details, project details final in the grant agreement stage. So if there are any changes that differ from the application form, you would say those now in the grant contract. And if there are any further changes to be made, maybe 3 months, 4 months from now, before your end date, that would be when a grant amendment would come in.
That's great. Thanks, Sharon.
Is there a timeline we can expect to receive the final signed contract after the November 21st deadline?
We'll be working very hard to get those out as soon as possible. We expect up to 2 weeks from receiving your signed agreement.
I'm not sure if we can speak to this question, Jalal, but someone is wondering how long the wait time would be for approval if there are any marketing materials to go out. I'm not sure if Yan, you could speak to this question or any of the coordinators.
Can you repeat the question, Sharon, please?
How long is the wait time for approval for marketing materials to go out? So if they have any comms related promotional materials.
It's very quick. As soon as you share it with us, I would say a maximum of 1 week, but less than that, depending on, I would say, yeah, up to a week.
Perfect, thank you. A clarification around the earlier signature question. Are we saying that the typed name functions as a signature and that will save the actual signature for the grant agreement? So Dalal, I would say that the type name does function as a signature for the grant agreement. It's not the grant agreement, the grantee information form. but there will be an actual signature needed for the contract.
Yes, exactly, Sharon. And thank you for that clarifying question. That makes me realize we just need to make that section a little clearer.
Yes, there will be a video recording, and the PowerPoint will also be sent out after this session. Could you speak more on the requirement to notify regional coordinators about the event details 4 to 6 weeks prior to the event? What details would be needed? And they're asking because their event happens annually and the details are already included in their application and information form.
Ayan, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, I can take this on. So usually once the introductions have been made to your regional coordinator, and the program manager will reach out to you asking for these details, and then you just respond to the email that we send with all the details that have been requested.
There are some questions about logos. So what logo should they use if their event is going to be co-funded by another department of the federal government, as well as the size of the logo? So should the CRF logo be smaller than the Government of Canada logo, or should it be equal? Or also the position? I think to this question, it would be great if you could send the promotional materials to the regional coordinator or program manager in charge. And then if there's any concern, we will check with our comms team, but that would be during that portion. Yes.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
So with that introductory email you'll be receiving from the regional coordinator, there will be also a link to a branding guide. So that will help you the different size of logo we have, the black and white, what not to use it. If you review that branding guide and you have questions, please reach out to your contact person, and they'll be happy to clarify your question.
Thanks, Ibrahima. I think we have time for maybe a couple more questions before we wrap up. Someone is asking, they'd like to confirm when we receive access to the reporting form. So this would come after the introductions are made. You will be moved into a separate, it's called a bucket on SurveyMonkey Apply. But when you log into your account, you'll be able to see that there's a new task, and that will be your report. So this will be sometime in December, I believe, after introductions have been made. And when do we receive the branding guide? So that would be during the introduction email as well. And then I guess lastly, do we have to run all the promotional materials by the coordinator or just the event details?
Yeah.
So thanks, Ibrahima. As Ibrahima mentioned, you'll have the branding guide. If you have any questions about your promotional materials, it's very recommended to connect with your regional coordinator and program manager, and then we'll confirm it for you if everything looks good or if any changes are needed.
Great. I think that's all the time we have today for questions, but please feel free to email grants@crf-fcr.ca if your question was not answered today, and I will pass it back to Dalal.
Thank you, Sharon. And I will pass it to Maya for closing.
Thank you, Dalal. Thank you, Ayan. Thank you, Sharon, Ibrahima, and thank you to the team supporting the session. But most of all, big thank you to all of you, our newly approved grantees who have joined the session. We hope you found it helpful. You will receive a recording, so you will be able to go back to the content. And thank you for asking questions. As you've noticed, those are great for us to also know where we can be a little bit more clear moving forward. But this was pretty much it for us for today. As we kind of say goodbye, we want to remind you that you can always reach to us at our email at grants@crrf-fcrr.ca. If you have specific inquiries about contract, send them to that address, email address, and put the subject line that says NARF EYI 2526 contract inquiry, because that will alert us that that needs immediate attention. And just know that you can always reach out to us with any questions. And for now, it will be mostly through Harman, and then later on to our regional coordinators whom you all met. And with that, we want to thank you for joining us. We want to wish you all the best with your projects, with your amazing initiatives across the country and across Canada. Wishing you all the best for Friday, late evening, and great weekend. So take care, everyone, and thank you for joining us.